Hello and welcome to the Empty Podcast. My name is Anthony Corby, author of the forthcoming book Empty, and on today's podcast I'm going to be talking about the outline of the story, giving a brief synopsis of it, and talking a bit about the cover and the inspiration for the cover of the book, which was just released 2 days ago as of the time that you guys are listening to this. So, again, my name is Anthony Corby. I am the author of the book Empty. Through this podcast series I'm going to be releasing every Wednesday. I will talk about the book. Today's podcast, again, dealing with the outline, the cover, a synopsis. The next podcast dealing with the inspiration for the book. The third one, potentially talking about tour dates, if I were to go on tour with the book, which is a process in the making right now. And the fourth one is going to be more about the future of my writing, generally. I won't get too into detail about the next 3 podcasts and what they'll be about, but just to go over some administrative stuff, in case you haven't heard and you're watching this or listening to this on my YouTube channel, Man Cave Studios, I wrote a book, guys. It's pretty heavy. It's about domestic abuse and domestic violence, but I'll get more into that in a second. I didn't really make a separate announcement video, even though I said I might for my YouTube channel, so I'm just trying to incorporate that into this as well. But I'm trying to go on tour, like I mentioned before. I'll announce some dates toward the middle or later part of the month if I wind up going on tour. I'm trying to get at least one book signing, and I'm already in talks with a few independent bookstores and others, to say the least. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention the companies I'm talking to, but I'm trying to go on tour. I'm trying to get a few book signings going. I'll announce dates probably on my Instagram account, which is at emptybycorby. And I'm going to be posting a lot of updates on there, so that's where I'm going to post tour dates and stuff as well if I eventually do go on tour, so make sure you follow that. I don't know if I said this before, but the podcast will run every Wednesday of November and up until the release date, which will be December 1st, sometime in the morning, but I'm not entirely sure about when the book will be live. I'm going to submit it for the publishing company on November 28th, and anytime in the next 72 hours it could be live on Amazon. So when it eventually does go live on Amazon, it could very well just be the 29th or the 30th. So it's kind of a soft release date, but I don't know. I haven't dealt with this in a while. I don't even remember if there was a time for review last time. But at least if it's on Amazon, if it goes up on Amazon, then if you have Prime and it goes up on the 29th, you'll still get the book on December 1st. I'm going to have like proofs and stuff printed out and sent to me beforehand, so and then after that I'll probably just buy actual copies and start giving them out for the price of $4, which, you know what, I'll just go over that now. The book will cost $4 if you're a friend of mine. If you decide to purchase it on Amazon, it will be $5.95 plus whatever tax they charge you. With me, it's just $4. If you know me and if you're a friend of mine, if you don't know me and you're not necessarily a friend of mine, then you're probably going to have to buy it on Amazon. But anybody that was a friend of mine in high school, or a few people that are friends of mine in college, can just DM me on Instagram at emptybycorby or at Tony Corby, and I'll just give you the book for $4. I'll sign it if you want. I already have 2 people that I'm signing the book for, which means I have to practice getting an actual signature because I don't even have that yet. So, fun stuff. But, like I said before, I'll go over a brief synopsis and stuff about the cover now. The synopsis basically, the book is about two characters, Nick and Laurel. They're married. They've been married for 8 years at the time the book takes place, and they are in a domestic abuse relationship. But you'll be surprised to hear that Laurel, the girl, is not the victim. It is Nick who is the victim of being beat by Laurel. And if you see the cover, which I'll go over more in a bit, Nick is there, and you see the scars on his arms. Again, I'll go more into the geniusness, if that's a word, of the cover. I'm an author, and I don't even know what's a word and what's not, but whatever. I'll go into the cover a bit more in a second, but Laurel basically has this trauma that she goes through. You'll find out more about that at the end of chapter 2. It's a very short excerpt, but it's very powerful, and she changes from that trauma that she has to go through. So Nick deals with her for pretty much half a decade, but as the book goes on, he increasingly begins to try to get himself out of the situation. I might as well just tell you what the back of the cover says. Like I said before, I'll just read it. It goes, Nick had a high school and college experience like no other. He was smart, making him automatically a nerd, but he also got to go out with the girl of his dreams. However, this all changes as Nick becomes an adult and Laurel, Nick's wife, experiences an event that turns her from the angel Nick once thought she was to a devil. Nick continues to deal with Laurel, unable to bring himself to give up on a girl he had once fallen in love with and chosen to marry. As time goes on, however, Nick becomes less and less willing to deal with Laurel's attitude and is faced with a tough decision: fight or flight. So with that being said, I guess I'll go more into the cover now. There's a lot that I really can't give away about the cover because it's very symbolic. You have to seriously look at everything, and you have to, by the time you get to the end of the book, you'll understand everything in the cover. But just going over the basics and everything I've told you so far, you see me on the right. I'm representing Nick as the high school and college kid that he had once fallen in love with Laurel. Laurel is not there, but she is. I'll say one of the reasons. There are two reasons that she's not there. The one that is obvious from the point, or from what I've just read you, is that the girl Nick fell in love with, Laurel, is gone and replaced by this monster that he doesn't really love anymore, which makes him feel isolated and alone. So the empty chair is represented by the vacancy of the old Laurel that Nick had fell in love with in high school. There are a lot of material objects on the page. The gold watch on quote-unquote Laurel's side, which I'm just going to call it for the rest of the podcast, which is represented by the empty chair, shows the riches and wealth that Nick sacrificed for Laurel as he quote-unquote fell in love with her and chose to spend the rest of his life with her. So you'll find out more about it in chapter 2. But generally he has to give up a bunch of stuff for this girl, or not has to, but he chooses to. You'll see that there are cuts on Nick's left arm, and it's not supposed to really look necessarily real. For whatever reason in the cover it looks really good. I guess I'm just a makeup artist or something now, but it's supposed to, I didn't keep the Sharpie in there on purpose. There's a reason that the Sharpie is where it is, and it's right next to the watch at Laurel's place, because she is the one that's given him these cuts, and she's gone. Now, there's also a reason that there are only cuts on the left arm, because on the right arm, it's clean, representing the fact that Nick has a choice to just be free from this domestic abuse relationship. He's been cut, but he still has a majority of his life ahead of him, even as a 40-something adult or 30-something adult, and still has the opportunity to turn his life around for the better. So you see also how Laura only has one folder on her side of the desk compared to the textbooks and notebooks that Nick has on his side, which basically just shows how seriously Nick took things in his education, going back to the whole high school theme. Obviously one of the reasons that it shows Nick in the cover was because it's easier, or Nick is a high school / college kid on the cover, is because it shows that Nick had this past going for him, but he's been left by the girl that he had chosen to marry, or at least emotionally. So, the other reason is obviously because, it's easier to just take a picture of me, but there's definitely a reason for everything in the cover. And then there's a Dodgers hat in the middle. If you look closely enough, you will see that is a Los Angeles Dodgers hat. And what that represents is a gift that I gave to somebody that we were supposed to share, and it was basically our hat, and that person basically became hostile towards me, and even recently was hostile towards somebody else that was a friend of mine before. But the inspiration for the book, which I'll go over next week, is basically about two people that have been hostile towards me at college, and they were my inspiration for the book. There's at least one scene in chapter 2 that's almost exactly like something that happened between me and the other person before they became hostile. But yeah, it's very symbolic. The whole thing is very symbolic. The leather coat on the opposite chair is just to show that somebody was once there. I'm looking at it now. I'm just seeing if I forgot anything. Nick, which is me, is wearing a polo because he's this he's supposed to be like dressed up nice, so to speak. I dress up nice anyway at college just for the hell of it. But Nick is showing like he's part of his professional life, but he's at the same time upset and not looking very professional, at least with the cuts on his arm. Yeah, that's actually basically it for the cover. I at least think that it's pretty cool, or I'm not even going to hold back. I'm not going to hold back on it. I think it's pretty well put together. So that's pretty much it for this edition of the Empty Podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm Anthony Corby, and I hope to see you next Wednesday for the second episode. Remember, December 1st, the release date. December 1st. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.